Hello and welcome to Recap the podcast with me, Lucy Wheeler. Recap stands for Research in Education, Child Development and Parenting. And our mission is to embrace everyone and make everyone feel at home and part of a supportive community. Here on the podcast, you will find stories from parents, child development professionals, researchers, early childhood educators, and many, many more. So pop on those headphones while you walk the dog, grab a snippet during your lunch break or while your baby sleeps, and enjoy listening to some incredible stories from some truly amazing people. Welcome to Recap. Hello, and a huge warm welcome to my guest today, Tara Appleton, who I'm very excited to chat to today about all things parenting, working, and allergies. So, before we head into that, I just want to tell you a little more about our guest. Tara works as a freelance social media and business development manager, working with B2B and B2B companies, helping them to win new business and enhance their online presence. Tara has 14 years experience in marketing and has been freelance for the last 6 years. She's also a mum to 2 children, ages 6 and 4, and when she isn't working in marketing, Tara runs a performing arts school called Talia School of Performing Arts alongside her sister, which is amazing. She also teaches private singing lessons, and with a passion for crafting, she has also recently started doing children's craft workshops during holidays. How amazing does that sound? I'm hoping it's not just open to children and that maybe I can kind of come along to one of these sessions. I'm not quite sure how she finds the time for it all, but I'm sure we will be able to ask that question to her. So without further ado, please give a really nice warm welcome today to the very lovely Tara. How are you doing today?
Good, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing good, thank you. So let's start with talking about the fact that you are a mum to 2 beautiful children, John and Joni. What has your journey into parenting been like?
Amazing. I'd say it's the most rewarding but most challenging job. I think I believe everyone would probably feel this way. They've definitely changed my life for the better. I feel like when I had John, is my firstborn, my son, he did change me as a person. It gave me a purpose in life and more of a purpose, should I say, in life. And yeah, it made me I just feel like it made me a better person. And definitely, it's funny, I thought I'd be more stressed, but he actually chilled me out this time. The second one made me more of a stress head, but no, I love it dearly. And I just love spending time with them as much as I can when I'm not working.
It's so nice because so many people that I speak to when I talk about how has their parenting journey been, and everyone kind of comments on how life-changing it is and how it kind of changes who you are as a person. And as you say, it is for the better, but it does come with its challenges, and it's really hard, isn't it, as a person to go from just only having to look out for yourself and get on with your life to all of a sudden being completely in charge of these little people that you've had. And it really is a life-changing thing. But yeah, it's definitely something that has been a miracle to experience, and I know that I feel incredibly lucky to have been able to do it. And I've just got the one child, and like you say, you've got 2 children now, and I suppose that brings with it its own challenges of juggling just in the parenting side of things.
Yeah, it does. I mean, I feel very grateful, and I've got the best of both. Because I've got a boy and a girl. My little girl's Joni, and she is definitely she knows her own mind. She is very strong-willed. They're both amazing, and John, he's such a lovely role model for her. Really looks out for us. Very caring. Obviously, they're not always like that. They have their moments, but yeah, definitely, I'm really, really grateful to have 2 lovely children that. As you say, it is an absolute miracle to experience and to watch them grow.
And it's really lovely how you say that he's been a good role model. And obviously, I know John and Joni. I know you previously with this as well. So I've met your children, and they are incredibly amazing, kind, sweet, wonderful children. And as you say, John, he loves being a role model, and he has really got that caring side, hasn't he? You are a fairly big family. It's you and your sister and your brother, and then you've got kind of cousins and things like that. Did you always want to have more than one child?
I actually I say I never wanted children. It's probably a bit of a lie. When I was younger, I was told I probably wouldn't be able to have children. So I kind of put it out of my head and told myself I didn't want children. I've got a really big family. I've got on my dad's side, he's got lots of brothers and sisters, got five, there's 6 in total. And on my mum's side, she's got 5 sisters. So then we've got cousins galore. There's a lot of us, but it's lovely. So I come from a very big family. But yeah, I didn't think I'd be able to have any. So I told myself I didn't want them. And then met Chris and we got married, and he always knew that I always said to him I didn't want children, but he knew the real reasons as to why. I think deep down I just didn't want to be disappointed or to go through that process, and then I couldn't. But I decided, it was worth taking that risk and seeing what happened. And I was very lucky to have 2 children without any major problems. So
yeah, that is incredibly lucky. And your pregnancies and births and everything, were they all quite straightforward and,
no,
I say easy in inverted commas?
not really. With John, I had high blood pressure and gestational diabetes, so I was classed as high risk. But the pregnancy with him wasn't great at all, because I couldn't control the levels with diet, because in the end they realised it wasn't actually what I was eating. So I had to take tablets and do insulin from about 28 weeks, which gave me an insight to how lucky I am not to have, something like diabetes, because obviously it's a life-changing thing to have. So it did give me that insight. And yeah, it wasn't nice having that for that amount of time, but I'm thankful that it did go away. With John, I had to have an emergency cesarean there was a lot of complications. I was in for 4 days, but thankfully he came out healthy and absolutely fine. But because of all the complications with John, I was actually told that I probably should consider an elective. So I had a planned cesarean with Joni. And I'm really thankful for that, because that was actually a really good pregnancy. I can't complain with that one. I didn't get diabetes the second time round. Tested at 16 weeks and then 28 weeks, and I was absolutely fine. So I ate all the chocolate I couldn't get when I was pregnant with John. And with Joni, I went in on the 8th of April 2020, 3 weeks into the first lockdown. So I'm so thankful that I did, because I knew when I was going in and I knew when I was coming out. Whereas in an uncertain world, in lockdown time, I think if I hadn't have known, I would have been more stressed about what was going to happen.
Yeah, completely. I was going to say that actually when you said that. I imagine that all of the stress of the lockdown and everything, which is, you don't need that stress at the end of your pregnancy, do you? So to be able to have that element of, okay, I know this is happening at this time, this is where I'm going, I guess that kind of brings that element of calm to it. What was it like having to kind of go through a labour and the early kind of newborn stages during something like a lockdown? I imagine that must have been incredibly tough as a parent.
Yeah, so I think for me, I was lucky that I'd already had a child. So I had, even though it was a difficult pregnancy, birth, I had experienced that already. So I really felt for those that were first-time mums going through lockdown and having a baby in this time, that time, because it must have been really scary. But I kind of knew what to expect. And mine and my husband's attitude was, the main thing is that I'm safe, the baby's safe. And if I have to go in on my own, then I have to go on my own. My mum's opinion was different. She was like, I don't want you going on your own. And I was like, if I have to, and I will, because there's nothing I can do. So up until the time, we wasn't sure whether Chris was going to be allowed in with us, like in the ward or anything. They were saying he needed to wait in the car. But because they weren't so busy, there was about 3 other ladies all going for cesareans. There was no natural births. It was all cesareans. So they said he was allowed to come onto the ward as long as he wore a mask and he obviously kept a distance. So he came onto the ward, and thankfully he was allowed in surgery with me. So he got to see Joni born, which I was really grateful for. The staff were amazing. To be honest, I was more relaxed having Joni in lockdown than I was with John. I would choose to have Joni in them times again than with John, because it was such a traumatic experience. Once I got into recovery, Chris had to go. So as soon as I was okay, he had to leave. So it was about 11 o'clock in the morning. So I was on my own for the whole day, evening, until I saw him the next day. But there wasn't really much that he could have done anyway. So I really missed him, and obviously it was really sad when he had to go and he had to leave. But the midwives were absolutely amazing. They were there on hand. They were running around like lunatics. They did such an amazing job. It was hats off to them. They were incredible. The next day was quite sad though, because he couldn't come into the ward to actually meet me and carry out the car seat like you would normally do. So he had to wait outside. They had to escort me down. It was just such surreal times. But as I said, the main thing was coming out safe. And luckily my mum isolated for 3 weeks. We all isolated 3 weeks before I went in. And my brother was doing all my shopping and my mum's shopping. So we was able to have my mum at home. So she stayed over and stayed with us for 2 weeks after Joni was born, and obviously looked after John while I was in hospital. So it did all work out really well. And I think because of all the planning, that made it obviously much more smoother. But yeah, so I was very impressed with the overall process, really. It was obviously the part of it I think is the most sad is how much we missed out on. Having family time at home was incredible, and having Chris at home to be there, because he was never around for John, which was hard for him. It was like I was a single mum, because he was always at work, never there for bedtime, only really got Saturdays and Sundays. So with Joni, he got to see her grow up from a baby, and he's got a really special bond with both of them. But you can see that she is a real daddy's girl. So I'm thankful for that. But I'm just gutted that 2 years of her life was pretty much stuck indoors without much human contact.
It was a completely different world, wasn't it? When you think back, and I don't know about you, because obviously you went through such a big life change in that period, but it feels like equal measures of such a long time ago and only yesterday, that whole experience of COVID and the lockdown and everything like that. And yeah, it must be really hard. And we talk a lot about parenting from a mother's perspective, but I like that you've kind of brought in, Chris's experience and how hard that was for him. And obviously he went through the first pregnancy with John, and that was the experience it was. And then to have it completely almost taken away from him, and him not being able to do any of the things that dads get to do around that. Yeah, that's really interesting that you've shared that. Thank you for sharing Chris's experience as well, because it's important that we acknowledge that it's tough for the dads as well on this. I just want to talk about the fact that alongside being a parent to two children, you also work. And you work in marketing, social media management. Obviously, you've got your performing arts school. You do singing lessons. You started this crafting. Like, it all sounds amazing, and you're quite clearly a very creative person, because these are all creative careers that you've got for yourself, which is amazing. How how do you fit it all in with being a parent to two children as well, and a wife and a friend, and a sister and a daughter, like all of these roles that you do? Do you have any tips on how you fit it all in?
I don't actually know how I fit it all in, if I'm honest. A lot of people say to me, I don't know how you do it. I don't know how you're so busy. I think I've always been busy. I need to be busy. My mind is busy. I struggle to switch off, and I need to be fully relaxed to be able to sit down and just do nothing, or really, really tired. But I work 4 days a week. So John's in school full time. Joni goes to preschool the 4 days that I work. So we have Fridays together, which is our mummy and Joni day, which is what she likes to call it. It's such a hard thing to answer. I really don't know how I fit it in, but I do work a lot of hours. I do evenings where I can. Obviously, being in social media, I'm always on. Pretty much I say always on my phone. That makes me sound really bad, but I am on my phone a lot, so I have to try and make sure I do it at times when I'm not always with the children. But now they're getting older, they are more independent, and they do play together when they get in. They don't really need me to be with them all the time, as much as I like being with them. I can maybe sometimes get in once they're from school. I can get in an hour or so, extra, but I do really try to keep between my core hours of when they're at school, so I am there for them. And I'm really, really fortunate that I have really worked hard to get to where I am, and I never used to be freelance, only the last 6 years. So I am lucky enough now that I'm able to manage my time around them. So I start my job when I've dropped them off, and I finish my job when I'm due to pick them up. And if I need to pick up some work in the evenings and work, a few hours, then I'll do that. I try not to do it too much, because obviously it's not healthy working every night, but a couple of nights a week I will, work of an evening just to catch up. But yeah, so I'm really fortunate to have a job that does, because it's mine, it's my own thing. I'm really lucky it does fit around them. I've always been interested in the creative side of things, so I love the fact that I can do different things every day. So one day I work for a construction company doing business development, another day I'm at an agency doing business development, and I'm at home another day where I'm doing social media marketing and networking, and then another day I'm back at an agency doing more business development. But within that, I like to do things with them as well, which is where the craft stuff comes from.
Yeah, I think I'm very similar to you in that sense of needing to be busy. I am very productive the more busier I am. And I don't sit well with just not having anything to do. So I love the variety of, for instance, the job that I'm in. So being in research, my overall title is researcher, but the projects that I'm working on are very different. So I can be working with one team on something, working with another on something else. Obviously, I've got recap that I do now as well. So I keep the variety within what I'm doing, and I completely agree with you on that. And that's kind of how I work. Do you think, because of the job that you do, it sounds like that you have to be very kind of organized and kind of plan content and plan what you're doing, things like that? Do you think those skills that you use in your job is what helps you manage the kind of craziness of your life outside of work as well?
Probably, yeah. I mean, I have days where I'm really super organised. I think that's like all of us, really. And then other days where I think, oh my God, I'm overwhelmed by what's happening. Because obviously it's the house as well. It's looking after the house, as you say, it's looking after the children. But generally, I'm pretty good at keeping myself organised, my head's on the right level of where I need to be. Obviously, I do have to plan ahead with my job. So sometimes my job can be really, really easy in the sense of getting everything scheduled and it's done and I can kind of leave it. But I have to be super organised to get into that situation. So if I'm going to be off for a week of half term, I have to schedule everything and then hope it all goes out. But I still don't really switch off because it's my own thing. I've got no one else to check it. So it has to be right. But I think organised is one of the skills you need, I guess, being able to manage your time properly, but also being open to knowing that you might have to fit things in, other times, as I said, like evenings and weekends. And just sometimes on a weekend, if things are quiet and we're not doing anything particular, I might just pop into the study and just take myself away and just catch up a little bit. But yeah, it's really hard to give tips, isn't it? Because I just do it and I don't really know. As I say, I don't know sometimes how I do it, but there's moments where I think, it's too much. I can't cope.
Yeah, it is a lot, isn't it? Do you use any sort of like I live by the reminder app on my phone, because my brain, I don't see, the older I'm getting, I don't know if it's old age, I don't know if it's how busy I am or what it is, but as the time goes on, I'm putting things in the reminder section of my phone that are as simple as make dinner or something like that. Do you know what I mean? It's just I need reminders for everything, and I don't know if it's one of those things where, because I always use it now, I rely on it, so my brain doesn't retain a lot of information. I don't know, but yeah, so I use my reminder app quite religiously day to day to help me keep on top of things. Do you use any sort of kind of programs, apps, or kind of calendars or anything like that you think is a good recommendation for someone with a busy life?
Yeah, so I mean, I don't really like, even though I'm in social media, I am obviously with the modern times of phones and the digital space. I actually don't like putting stuff in my phone. I like writing it down. So I've still got a diary, a paper diary that I write in everything that I'm doing. That's just for me. But I've also got a calendar which has got all the kids' stuff on it and Chris's stuff as well, because I need to remember that, and my stuff. So we both know what's going on and it's in front of all of us. And I find that easy for that. Obviously, it's updating it. But then I also have a planner on my desk which has a reminders section and a to-do, and I have to update that daily. I like to come, overnight I'll do it. I like to come down the next day and know exactly what I've got to do. But I'll always check my paper diary as to what I'm doing that day, and I'll try and get ahead. So I've already put stuff in up to July at the moment. Just because I can't work any other way. I will forget things. But I also do like, even though I say I like Siri gets right on my nerves, but very useful for things like remind me to call this person, or, timers for different things. So I try and use it a little bit, but I mainly rely on writing and paper diaries and planners.
Yeah, I think they're incredibly useful, aren't they? I do also have a paper diary and a calendar, and I use my phone, and I still forget stuff. So I just want to touch upon your singing and your performing arts background, because that's actually how we met. So that's something that I'm really passionate about, although I'm not quite as skilled in the singing department as yourself. Do you still find time? Obviously, you've got the performing arts school and you do your singing lessons, which is great. How much time do you still have to do those things? Are they kind of a, not an add-on hobby, but do they take precedent in your everyday life to be able to keep that part of your identity going, or is it something that you're finding more and more that you haven't got time for?
So I run a school with my sister, Tara Performing Arts, which is actually 8 years old. It was 8 years old in February, so we've been running for 8 years. It's gone very quick.
Wow.
And we actually opened that a year after we lost our dad, because me and my sister were always in performing arts, so working in dance schools after we left college, teaching singing, teaching musical theatre. And then my dad was always like, you need to open your own school, stop working in these other schools. We're like, yeah, we know. We kind of just kept pushing it back and keep working in schools. And then one day, a year after we lost our dad, sadly 9 years ago, and a year after we lost him, we were like, we do really need to do something, and we need to do it for him, because he loved the fact that we all sung, because my dad sung, my brother sings as well, my sister sings, and we decided to do it and took the plunge, and it was the best thing we did. It's a lot of work, because we don't just run it, we also teach. We teach the singing classes and all the private singing lessons. And we have just taken on a teacher that's taken over the musical theatre, so our dance teachers can take over some other bits. And they've actually come on board and started helping us with some private lessons, which is freeing up our time a bit, because even though we want to teach, it's very hard for us, because we're welcoming new students and we're doing all the admin and the show stuff and the costumes. And there's just so much that I don't think people realise goes into the work of running a school. So that is pretty much something that's in my life and what I'm doing every day. So there's not a day where I'm not talking about Talia with my sister or doing something. So we teach singing there, and I also teach private singing from home on a Monday and a Thursday. I've only got a few students because I don't want to take on too many. So I used to be a mobile teacher before COVID. I used to go to people's houses and teach singing, and then in COVID, that was one of the things, actually one of the things that was actually no. Talking, obviously, you could talk to people, but you could not do singing because of the particles like spitting. So they banned it, and our school was closed for 2 years. I was online doing Zooms, which I absolutely hated, because I just don't like teaching that way. I like teaching, face to face with the student, to be able to help them properly. But I only did it to get them to keep them going as such, because they were all struggling. They needed something to look forward to each week. So I do silly things like hat competitions and stuff just to keep them going. But it took my passion away for teaching singing, and I really struggled to get back into it. And once things opened up again, I just couldn't bear the thought of having to go to every single house and doing a test. I was like going into 10 different houses on a Saturday. There's no way I could have done that. So I made the difficult decision to close. At the time, it was my company was Sing With Me, and it'd been running for 14 years. I took the decision to close that, which was very hard. But me and my sister decided if we closed that, we could then, because my sister also worked as a teacher for Sing With Me for I think it was like the 10 years of that or so. So we closed that, and then we focused purely on Talia to build that up, which has gone from strength to strength since COVID. We lost half our students, but we've now got back up to where we were and some. So it's growing, touch wood, it keeps growing, but it's doing really, really well. So we focused on that. And then only a year ago, I thought, do you know what? I really miss teaching singing. And I said to my husband, I'd like to do it from home. And we've got a study now, so we've got a space where I can go. The kids are a bit older. They're really good when I'm doing it. And I make it clear that I have got children at home, so there might be disruptions, but generally the students are pretty good with that. So yeah, I teach home on a Monday and Thursday, and I've really loved getting back into that again, because singing out of everything was it's a massive passion of mine. And that's doing things for other people. But for me, I enjoy singing, but I don't always get to do it. But last year I started going to karaoke once a month, local to me, at a bar called Ronnie's. And it just gives me such a great release. I just love it. I look forward to every month. And if I don't go, I feel like, oh my God, I'm really missing out. So that's what I do for me to get my singing fix, should I say.
I love that you're still making some time, because it is a form of self-care. You're looking after yourself. You're doing something that improves your mental health. It's a passion that you like to do, and it's your therapy, I guess. So I love that you're prioritizing still, once a month, this is me time in amongst all the busy stuff that you're doing. So that's absolutely great. And I also love what you say about, you tell people that you've got kids at home, and there may be disruptions in this this day and age where we're talking about working from home a lot, and parents working, and acknowledging that actually we have lives outside of our 9 to 5 jobs, and that it's okay to be a parent and to still be working, and as long as people acknowledge that and embrace it, we're all working in it together. So I love that you say that to people, and that by the sounds of it, they're really encouraging and embracing of it as well. One of the main things I wanted to talk to you today about was actually parenting a child with allergies, because I see online a lot of talk about allergies with children and parents that are kind of navigating life with a child who has an allergy. So, John, your oldest has an allergy, and it's been quite severe, hasn't it? Can you tell us a bit more about initially what his allergy is, and kind of that initial part of diagnosis and those first few years of experiencing it?
Yes, so it goes back to actually when he was a baby. Being a first-time mum, it's obviously hard. You don't always know what's wrong with them. But from about 8 weeks old, I just knew there wasn't something right with him. His tummy, he's just really struggled with wind. He struggled to go to the toilet, and he just wasn't right. So I kept saying to the doctor, something's not right, and they said, no, everything's perfectly normal. And I kind of went on, and then it got to about 10 weeks, and he was up A&E because he was in such excruciating pain. He just would not stop screaming, and he was, as you would remember, he's not that kind of kid. He was such a happy, content baby. And then the doctors confirmed there and then, definitely something going on with his stomach. I think it's a milk allergy. So I was like, I knew something was wrong. There was no dietitians available for help. There was no help at all. They didn't do any tests, any allergy tests. They said they couldn't do it on a baby. Even though I wouldn't want my niece to have suffered, but I was very fortunate that my sister had some knowledge within this area, because my niece had a milk allergy when she was young in a different form. Her skin, she really suffered with her skin. So she was giving me some tips and tricks as what I could do. So from 4 months old, I decided I was going to wean John, because he was quite a hungry baby anyway, but the milk he was prescribed was just awful. It smelled so disgusting. I don't know if it's a good description, but off potatoes is all I could really compare it to. It was just really, really horrible. So I decided, rather than keeping him on that milk for longer, I was just going to start weaning him, which I did. So from 4 months to 11 months old, weaning him fine with no issues. He went to Spain for a wedding. And as you do, you go out, you might give your child a little bit of your food. Went into a restaurant in Marbella, and it became very clear there was something wrong. He was very sick. He didn't look right. And then a few minutes in, I said, I think we need to take him to hospital. And everyone just looked at me a bit like, are you sure? I was like, I think we need to go to hospital. And then all of a sudden hives started coming out very, very quickly. And I just said, we need to go now. Luckily, we'd hired a car. So my husband was able to drive to the hospital. But within the time from getting to the restaurant to the car, he was really seriously ill. And in the car, he was starting to lose consciousness. So I was tapping him. I say tapping him. I was probably hitting him a little bit harder than tapping him, but I was trying to keep him awake. I was going, come on, you're okay, stay awake. And I was trying to sing songs to him and keep him going. We got to the hospital, and obviously no one spoke very good English. No one knew what was going on. I said, I think he's had a reaction to something. Literally took him off me, and they took him into majors, and they wouldn't let me go through with him, which was probably one of the most terrifying experiences of my life. To this day, it still makes me go cold. I begged them, and they would not let me go through. So the next, I don't even know how long it was, but it felt like a lifetime. We had to wait for them to come out and tell us what had gone on. We was very fortunate that we was with friends. They was with us, so we had a lot of support that day. Once they finally came out, went in to see him, and he just looked like a little Michelin man. He was so swollen and puffy, and he was distraught. And I got a bit upset, and they kind of gave me a slap, really. They told me off and said, sort yourself out. I was like, oh my God, they're really harsh. I get it, though. They want you to be obviously strong for your children, but at the same time, it was really upsetting seeing him, and I didn't think I was going to see him again. So a lot of emotions. But the reason why he had so many, because when you go into anaphylaxis, because it was an anaphylaxis reaction, your veins collapse. So in the UK, they would usually use, they'd put the adrenaline into your calf muscle, into the bone, which would help to get the adrenaline working because your veins collapse. But in Spain, they didn't do that. They still tried to get it into his veins. So I think that caused him a lot of stress and upset. But he was fine. We went into the ward. We had to keep him there, monitor him for, I think it was about an hour or so, a couple of hours. They still didn't know what he'd reacted to, but they did agree it was some kind of reaction. They had given him adrenaline. Thankfully, we weren't leaving until the next day, so we was able to monitor him overnight, keep an eye on him and just relax before we came home. As soon as we got home, obviously, got in touch with the doctor, booked our appointment, got through appointment with the paediatrician to have some blood tests done. And the paediatrician actually said, well done for getting him, as parents, for getting him there so quickly. He said, I know they say about first time, like your instincts and everything. He said, even though you would have had an instinct, your gut instinct, he said, you still did a great job to get him there so quickly because you wouldn't have had much time. And I don't know why I asked the question, but I said, how much time do you think I had? And he said, maybe 10 more minutes, which was just the thought that he obviously is 7 soon, but he may not have even made it to age 1. And he nearly died, basically. It's that life-threatening, that allergy that day, that reaction caused him to nearly die. And yeah, I really struggled with it a lot.
I guess as well, being in a foreign country when all that's happening, it's not just kind of your reactions as a parent and you're in familiar territory. You're doing all of that in a place where A, you don't know where everything is, and B, like you said, when you get to the hospital, there aren't a lot of people that actually speak the language that you're speaking or kind of have that clear understanding. So on top of the stresses of my child is in a life-threatening condition at the moment, you're also dealing with, actually, I don't know where I am and I can't communicate clearly and I don't know what's going on. I can't even begin to imagine the level of stress that brings.
Yeah, they were just talking amongst themselves as well. So I was in the room with them. They were saying to me, what's happened? And I was like, I don't know. And they were then talking to themselves and I didn't understand them. And I was just like, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know what to do. But I think that's that moment when they told me you can't come through, and just took him away from me into my ages. I just said to my friend, I'm never going to see him again. And I just literally, I got on the floor and begged them. That's how much I wanted to go through. They still didn't let me. I just sat on the floor and I just cried. So I'm not going to see him again. So once we got the results, it turned out he had an egg allergy. He was anaphylaxis to egg and peanuts. So I do feel like maybe the milk was the initial issue, but these other allergies were always there. We just didn't know. So I do feel if they had given me more help when he was younger and actually tested him, which they could have done because they do test babies now, I might have known about these allergies and I could have prevented it. But it took that much. It took for him to nearly die for them to be, okay, actually she does need help with this situation. And then from then I got, we're very, very fortunate that we got given, we got referred to the asthma and allergy service, and he's now got an allergy nurse, which he'll have till age 16 if his allergies do continue. So once, obviously, we knew what was wrong, we then had to avoid peanuts, egg, but not just that as the ingredients, we had to avoid it as may contain. So, I mean, egg is in silly things like a packet of skips may contain at the time. There was just so much he couldn't eat. So it made it very, very difficult. A lot of pressure and stress going out to eat if we did. And then when he was 2, my husband went to do some shopping and me and John sat in the cafe and I explained that he'd had allergies. They were serious. They were life-threatening. He had EpiPens. And I said that the sandwiches had mayonnaise in, the cheese ones, so he couldn't have that. The lady said, that's okay. I'll make him a sandwich. She made him a sandwich and she must have contaminated it in some way. And we was back at the hospital. Previous to that, we thought it was just, a rash. It started to get a little bit of a rash to start with and he wasn't eating. But once we got him back to the car and done Piriton, we started to go home. And then we realised his mouth was swelling up in his throat because he couldn't talk. He was going, Mummy, he was trying to talk to me and it wasn't coming out. Went straight to the hospital. But he was traumatised because a year before, he'd obviously been in a room on his own. So triage couldn't get any tests out of him. They told me to go and take him outside to calm him down. I said, because he's traumatised. Why he doesn't want you to do anything? I just need to go up to the ward. We just need to be taken up. Got him out to the foyer to calm him down. Projectile vomit everywhere. And I literally shouted him and said, we need to go upstairs now. They gave him the EpiPens for it to stay overnight. And it turned out that they had, from doing a bit of investigating, they had actually used a knife or a board or something where egg had been. We can't say for certain they did that because we can't, but it's likely that there was some kind of contamination. We're not sure what, but the allergy nurse thought it might be egg. And unfortunately, it just set me back a little bit. It took me back to, obviously, Spain. And yeah, it was hard because I just got over that and then it brought everything back again. Because of that, I then had to have some CBT, which I felt I needed to be able to control the allergies and be able to react the right way. So when I needed to worry, when I didn't need to worry. But then in lockdown, he had a bit of a yogurt that had egg in it, I believe, and there was no reaction. And that was a product that had originally nothing in it, no egg in it, but they changed their ingredients.
Oh.
And you have to be constantly checking, and we do. But sometimes you do slip up. It's natural. You're constantly checking these things. I have to get Chris to double check. Then he'll get me to double check. You might get someone to triple check. But he was fine. And then we spoke to his allergy nurse, and she said actually he's due to have his retest. So it might be that he's actually grown out of the allergy. It's likely that he has, because they generally do grow out of them around that age. And it came back that he had grown out of the egg allergy, which was just a miracle, because that's the one that was, at the time, worried me more.
Yeah.
Peanuts were still an issue at that point. But recently he's been retested for his peanuts, literally last week. So we're waiting to hear as to whether he's still got an allergy and if we can start doing something at home to try and build up peanuts. Because he done the egg ladder and he passed that. He just has to keep having egg in his diet as much as possible. But yeah, it's been really stressful. It's been really terrifying. I think the hardest thing is you're in charge of keeping them safe. It's not up to him. I think if he does keep his allergy, the next thing that I worry about is once he's on his own, I can't protect him anymore. But yeah, it's been a really difficult journey, and I constantly worry about him. But I think I'll always worry about him if he does continue with an allergy. But I'm sure, we always worry about our kids anyway, don't we? It's something that never leaves us, the worry. I feel like we're at a good point. We're managing it well. He's amazing. He's very good with his allergies. He knows what he's allergic to. He checks things before he eats them. If he comes home, he likes to finish off the bit of my tea that I leave. And he says, what have you drunk? What have you eaten today? What have you had for your dinner today? And I'll be like, no, you're fine. He's like, okay. So he always checks everything. He's amazing to have dealt with it as well as he has. He doesn't worry if he can't have a chocolate that Joni has, or he can't have an ice cream. He said, I'll just have a slushie or a drink. He's just so grown up. It's just incredible, really, how much he's adapted, should I say.
I think that's the thing, isn't it? Because now he's at the age where, like you say, he can communicate, he can understand, and he can, to an extent, look out for himself. But when those previous attacks happened, he was a lot younger and he didn't have any understanding of what was going on. So I guess that's the really hard bit, is nobody knows what's going on, and he can't communicate to you, this is how I feel, this is what I've had. And I was going to say, like, what happened in that restaurant where you kind of entrusted, even though you told that person he has an allergy, he requires an EpiPen, it's a severe allergy, you made it very clear, you did your part as a parent to make it clear, and you were still let down. And I guess that's part of the stress, isn't it, is you can only do so much, but no matter how many things that you can put into place, there's still that underlying risk that is out of your hands, and you can't control every element of it, and he won't be able to control every element of it as he gets older. But I think you've done an amazing job. Like I know we've spoken about this before, when you said that he's been really switched on about what he can and can't do, and how he'll come and he'll explain to you, or if somebody offers him something, he'll ask what's in it, or he'll ask what they've had. Like, to be at that level of awareness at not even 7, that's testament to what you and Chris are doing about making him aware. And I think that's going to be key for him going forward, that he doesn't necessarily have to rely on you, that he's got a level of his own reliance now, which is great. Has it made it difficult having one child with an allergy? And I'm assuming Joni doesn't have any allergies. Like, how does that balance work with, allowing one to have one thing? And has it ever been a problem?
So yeah, Joni doesn't have any allergies, and she's the fussiest little thing I know, she hasn't got any allergies, no. So when she was born, once we discussed allergies with her allergy nurse, with John's allergy nurse, she said as soon as she's weaning, you need to give her peanut butter. But the first thing I had to do was test it on her back. So this is like tips for anyone really that is new to allergies, or that is worried about giving their children or babies anything, because it is scary, is to always test it on the back of the skin. So on the back, the middle bit of your back is quite sensitive. So that's how I've always tested Joni with stuff. So when John was doing the egg ladder at home when he was 3, she was already here, and she was able to eat. So we did the egg ladder. I was told to do it together, so she had to do it with him. So she did all the steps that John did from the beginning right to the end. So everything he passed and she passed, they kind of done it together, which was nice, because it meant that I knew that she was also okay, because we didn't know at that point whether she did have any allergies. And then when it came to peanut butter, I was worried about that one, but I was told as soon as he goes to school, because you can react to something 6 hours after. So if I was to eat peanuts and then John comes home and I've only had him 2 hours before and I kissed him, he could potentially react skin-wise. He wouldn't have a severe anaphylaxis reaction because he has to ingest it. Luckily, he's not airborne or anything like that. But yeah, as soon as he went to school, I tested a bit on her back. She got no reaction to peanut butter. There was no rash. So I left it, a good 20 minutes, nothing. And then the next day, I gave her a tiny scrape on a bit of toast, and I was literally watching her like a hawk. But nothing. She was absolutely fine. So yeah, I've always tried to keep it fair, but I think the reason why Johnny's so good is because we don't stop her from having things, because I don't think that's fair either. He's got to understand that as much as it is hard, he can't expect people not to eat things around him. Obviously, there's a level of safety there that I wouldn't go to a party and expect to see peanuts out or anything. But what I mean is, if someone's having cake and it's a may contain peanuts, because he can't have may contain peanuts, she will still have it. There are some occasions where we'll go to a party and the friends will get them the same, which is really lovely. So we do try and treat them the same, but there's circumstances where you can't always do that. And I'll just say to John, I'm really sorry. I explained to him, this is a situation. Joni wants to have that cake. Would you be okay if she has a bit of that cake? Would you mind? He'll go, no, I don't mind. She's okay. She can have it. I'm okay with this. And I'll go, you've done really well there. And I'll make sure I explain the situation to him, but also tell him how brilliant that is and how proud of him I am, or we are, and just say, that's really grown up. Well done. And I'll make sure I acknowledge that, because it's really important. But yeah, we don't hide things from him in the sense of, can I have that? Oh, sorry, darling. No, you can't have that because that's got this in it. But yeah, and I think it's important to be upfront. I don't think you should shut them away completely and make everyone do the same. So like, we have got things in our house that he can't have, but they are up high or in our basket. So we have a John and Joni cupboard which has got their snacks in, but everything in there they can both eat. And then there's another basket on the top of the fridge which has things that me and Chris can eat, and he can't get to that. So, and they will only be eaten when he's not around or he's in bed. So that's the way we've kind of managed it. But I think the biggest thing is we've always been honest with him about his allergies, how severe they are, what can happen, because I think from a young age he needed to know that this isn't a game, this is serious.
Yeah.
And sadly, going back to restaurants not being able to kind of keep you safe, I think sometimes people just don't realise how severe they can actually be. But I can't fault, there's a lot of restaurants I can't fault that over the years that we've found that have been absolutely amazing. And you've just got to go with your gut and ask the right questions. And if you don't feel comfortable, you don't eat. That's as simple as that. So that's the way we've kind of, managed it over the years.
Yeah, it sounds like that element of just being prepared and planning and forward thinking is really useful in situations like that as well. How much understanding does Joni have of John's allergies?
She knows he's got a peanut allergy, so she knows he can't have that. But I don't think she really understands the extent of it and kind of what it means. She just knows he can't eat it because it'll make him unwell. But she'll often say, you can't have this, John, because it's got peanuts in it, but I can have it.
Oh.
And then sometimes I'll say to her, do you think maybe we shouldn't have that? And then we can have, like, John can have the same. And she'll go, yeah, like she'll agree that maybe that's a nice thing to do. But I don't think she really understands, bless her, the extent of what an allergy is and what it could do. And she hasn't actually seen him. Well, she has actually seen him react, because he reacted last year to penicillin and ended up going to hospital. But I'd said to the doctor, I don't think it's a good idea giving this to him if he's got allergies already. They agreed it would be fine. I know, something told me it wasn't fine, but kind of trusted the doctor's opinion on that. And generally, I don't think children do actually react to it. It's not as common as we think. But my sister's got a penicillin allergy, so I thought maybe it's not. And he reacted, but that was really, say funny saying this, it was really good that happened, because it wasn't severe. It was just, his skin came out in hives, and he was like, what's happening? And I said, this is what would happen if he was to have a severe allergy. This was what would happen first. So he got to experience a reaction and how it felt. And obviously Joni saw that happen as well. So they've kind of experienced it and seen it, and she knows that he's got one, but I don't think she really understands it fully.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I'm there with you. My daughter Gracie, she is penicillin allergic as well. So we're always at the stage whenever she needs antibiotics, we're like, what we're going to give her, because she's allergic to penicillin, but she's also allergic to some of the other ones that they use as alternatives as well. So we're quite limited as a family when it comes to antibiotics for her. And yeah, that's a whole different problem. Brilliant. Thank you so much for sharing your experience of parenting with an allergy. I think it's something that is talked about a lot online, but still not enough. I think there still isn't enough awareness. I think there are still stories out there that surprise me, that I think, why is this still happening? And I think you can't ever fully understand what it's like to be a parent with a child with a severe allergy unless you experience it. Because, I mean, even just listening to your story, and especially at the beginning when you were explaining about those early stages and everything, like I say, it makes you go cold when you listen to it, because I just think, what an awful experience to go through. But all you can do is keep raising awareness. Everyone can keep talking about it, and I agree. I think things are getting better. I think places are getting more aware, people are getting more aware and more accepting of the understanding around how severe this could be. Just to finish up, because Recap is about embracing everybody, making everyone feel at home and part of this supportive community, I always ask all guests to have a think of a piece of advice or an empowering message to give our listeners to help share the love and support. And it would be particularly nice to think about this from an allergy perspective as well, an allergy mum perspective. So if you could say one thing or help just one person, or have one key bit of advice that you think that would help, what would you like to say?
I think with the allergies, because it's all about your gut, I think it's important to go with your gut. And if you have any bad energy, or you've got your gut instincts telling you, no, I'm not happy with that, or I think there's something wrong, or anything, any bad vibes, you need to go with it, because it's probably right. Because the amount of times I have disagreed with doctors over the years with John, I've been right every time. And as mums, we know our children, and we know when something's not right. So I think go with your gut, but also don't give up, and just know you're not alone. There are people out there. It is a very alone, I think I felt very alone to start with, but you're not alone. There's so many people out there. Sadly, allergies are such a big thing now, but there's so much more awareness. I wish I could do more, but I mean, I'm always here if people want to chat to me about it, because obviously I've been through it. So if anyone wants to reach out to have a chat, then I'd be more than happy to do so. I've actually got an Instagram called Traveling with Allergies that I started to help people to be able to go abroad, and or even in the UK on holidays, and find restaurants that I feel are, from my experience, a safe place. It's just my experience though, so it might not be a safe place for someone else, or it might not have the good experience that I've had. But yeah, I felt like that would really help the community and people that suffer with allergies. But yeah, so that's my top piece of advice: to go with your gut and don't give up, and just know you're not alone.
Thank you. That's really lovely. And I'll put a link to that Instagram under the episode, so that people can follow and can also reach out to you if they want to. So thank you for sharing that with us. It's been amazing talking to you today, and I've learned so much more about allergies than what I knew before. So thank you for giving your time today. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Brilliant. Take care. See you soon.
See you later.